Alrighty, it's the next day. That little epoxy goop was interesting, but we're going to see what happens here. One good thing, the wood isn't stuck to it, and the plastic didn't stick to it either, and it looks to me like we may have ourselves some pretty awesome success here. That is promising as heck right there. So I'm pleased. We're going to have to see what it looks like cleaned up, but I am quite pleased here. So. Okay, so here we have the acetone-based glue, and it came out the best looking. It left the color perfectly. It's nice and flush, but it didn't fill in the gaps quite as well. This is the epoxy one, and unfortunately it's just way too dark. And I think the big problem is I did this with a 90-degree V-bit. I'm going to switch the CNC program to use a 60-degree V-bit and have it cut the mountains a little deeper. So that should fill in the gaps better, and we're going to go with the acetone for the glue. The epoxy just doesn't do it for me. It just looks like crap. So next time you see this, we'll be doing that. Now we're going to move on to some wiring stuff. Okay, welcome back to the shop. As you can see, we are in wire mode again. I found I was going to do a test of running and fishing all this stuff through the real body, through the pickup cavity that I created. But I was really worried about these capacitors, and later after I'd done this wiring up, after I started on this harness type stuff, I realized I made two leads. I made a mistake. I made two leads for the pickups. Pickups already have their own leads. They're going to come through holes and get soldered in. So I need to remove that. At least I need to remove these two things. Another piece of advice I saw surrounded this shielded wire. When you're shoving this stuff inside of a very compact cavity, this shielded wire can touch things that shouldn't have electrical contact with the ground. Things that it can ground out stuff that's not supposed to be grounded. Most notably could be this part right here. There could just be a case where it gets trapped right here. That is grounding the source of this pickup. The hot of this pickup. Straight to ground, it completely shorts it all out. Same goes over here, completely shorts that all out. So, I've decided that since there are a few problems here, the one, that I didn't need these pickup leads, two, the capacitor lengths, I'm really scared about messing that up, and three, the shielded cabling. I went on a hunt for some more wiring diagrams, and since I bought the Seth Lover Seymour Duncan pickups, I went to their site and looked at their wiring diagrams just to verify and see what's going on. And I found this sheet that outlines how they recommend doing it. Their diagram shows it in the 4-wire configuration, but there's a little box down here about the single wire. And so one of the things I noticed that's big to me is that this cap spans across these two pots in this situation, which means that it becomes sort of structurally at risk. Trying to fish both of these pots through and not snap this solid line wire made me nervous, and I saw that this one says the cap goes from there's another spot here. It goes on this pickup between these two posts instead. So that is supremely encouraging, because that puts the cap right on the pot, so I don't have to carry the pot around or carry the cap around inside of the cavity and worry about snapping it. So it's a better arrangement. I don't think it's going to sound much different. I think it's just taking a slightly alternative path. Maybe it is a little bit different because it's coming after the pot instead of before it, but Seymour Duncan recommends this for their pickups, so I'm going to use this. And so basically what that means is I'm going to, for a large part, desolder most of this. Everywhere there's mesh wire, or there's mesh over surround, I've got some 1/8 inch heat shrink tube that I'm going to use, that I'm just going to fish it through. I'm literally just going to push it through. I'm not going to actually shrink it. I'm just going to fish it through so that it acts as an insulator from the shielding for the mesh on the outside. So I've got my soldering wick. I'm going to first get all the loose wires free here, and then we'll go from there. I think I'm going to grab my helping hands here and just have some stuff kind of like, I'm going to preload this a bit so that it will pull away according to my hopes. And we'll just desolder here. Alright, I think I've got everything pretty cleaned up. There's a bit of solder left around here, but that's okay. I've got all the holes for the pots open and all the switch holes open. So this side is bridge, this side is neck. So I'm going to follow the bridge and plan my lines, and then I'll follow the, well, I don't know what that means exactly. Yeah, I'm going to find the bridge and follow the lines for it, and then I'll do the same for the neck pickup. Well, it was almost a full success. I had my lack of capability when it comes to soldering, I hosed this pot. So if I put a ohm meter from this line to the ground, it should stay a constant 500 ohms or roughly in that area, or 500k ohms. But if I wiggle this lug around, it changes, so it's not stable. This one doesn't do that. These other ones don't do that. So I think I broke my pot. That's where this kind of comes along. What's this wiper do? Yeah. This one, the wiper doesn't do squat. Unless I wiggle things around just right. Then it does. Yeah, I effed up this pot. This one for sure. I feel like I might have effed up others. Alright. Excuse me. It just means I have to get a new pot. That's all. Alright, well, I was hoping to fish this wiring through today, but it's not going to happen. I'm just not making it. I broke stuff. Better to find out it was broken now than to fish it all through and then go, what the hell? And that's why we test. I probably got it too hot messing around with soldering and resoldering and unsoldering and trying to wick away all that extra solder. So yeah, I just goofed and learned an electronics lesson is what I did. So I just learned that you can get things too hot when you're soldering. So I don't know why I'm putting the, yeah, I'm not putting it back. It's going on this way. That's all right. We'll get it. We'll get it. I just gotta get more parts. Oh well, right? It's just pieces. A little disheartened, but it's okay. We're used to that at this point. No, I just don't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know how to solder that well, and I'm getting my crash course now. That's all this really is I'm getting my crash course in soldering. That's okay. We'll learn. More later. Okay, so it's been a little while. We did some testing with the Headstock inlay, and I've reached a point of success that I am ready to begin. So this is my success right here. Can you see that very well? Probably not super well. It's probably too bright, but this one came out great. And what it is, it's the same grooves I had done before, but I had cut a new inlay material with it being a bit taller, and it fills up the pocket a lot better and more reliable. So all that's holding this in, and there's a little bit I've popped out, but I can fix any of that. What I'll do is I'll make sure that stays in next time. But yeah, so it's just a little bit thicker remaining. So it comes out where the inlay piece, even though the acetone and the pearloid shrinks, there's enough left on top that it shrinks above the surface. It finishes above the surface, so flattening it to the surface leaves a lot of room, and it's well seated. It's well fit in the pocket. So then the only other challenge is to make sure I get the inlay where I want it to be on the headstock. So what I did is I put this up against where the nut goes, and I found basically I lined the center lines, and then I traced out the shape of the headstock. I'm going to do that again in a second, but you can see here, can you see the pencil lines maybe? Well, anyway, there's the outline of the headstock right there. Then I measured from the peak here, where the crown of the headstock has a nice convenient point that comes together right in the center. Measured down how far I wanted my logo to, or my signature, my inlay to sit, and then I cut it on the CNC. I just aligned my center line with the spindle using a V-bit, and I'm going to show you this in a second because we're about to do it for real in some ebony. So I'm going to recreate the same process here. The first thing I'm going to do is pick which side is up, which side gets the inlay, and it's going to be this side. And then which end of the headstock part, which side should get just picking out which side of it I want, because I don't think I'm going to cut it away if I put it over on this end. No, I will not. Yeah, we're going to go this way, like so. Okay. So now I'm just mentally checking for centeredness. Yeah, that's fine. And I've got a nice sharp white pencil. Might actually be easier if I flipped it over here. Yeah, that's a lot easier. Now I can line everything up first, and then I can make a nice white pencil mark where the headstock lives. And make sure I get a decent transfer of the shape here, especially down on the ends where I need to measure for the center line. Okay, and now you'll see we've got our headstock cutter shape marked out. So I had set these for the last one, so they shouldn't be too far off for this one. And they are not, so I just need to get myself where will make sense here. Yeah, that'll work. So that's my center point right there. And then I just line up the punch mark I just made right there with the peak of the headstock crown right there where the two come together. And then I just draw a center line. And that is all we need, really, to get this thing ready to go on the CNC. So we're about to cut into our first piece of ebony for the inlay. So we got it all marked. I got my center line. The rest of this will get done by the CNC. I'm going to center or zero the x-axis right at this peak intersection here. Where's my... I want to illustrate. Yeah, it's alright. What I'll do is I'll center my Z or my x-axis right here at this intersection. Right here where the peak comes to a peak and the center line. And then I will manually enter a dimension to move the x-axis down. The reason for all of this is that I could have done this a bunch of ways, but the signature G-code, the G-code that runs for this is off the center of this design. So I've got to figure out where the center of this design has to land. So I'm just measuring down to make that determination where the center goes. So the center is 0.7204 inches from this peak. And I think I'm going to fudge just a tiny little bit because the pencil line is on the outside, so I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. But we're ready to put this bugger up on the CNC, so I'll bring you back when we're in position for that. Okay, so we're set up. I've still got my little vacuum clamping system here that you've seen me cutting the tests out with. I'm doing the same thing. Hopefully, we're about to find out real quick. Hopefully the vacuum works all right with this ebony. So we'll see. I'm going to do a quick test first. I have to get this so that the position is centered just right. So I'm also making sure that I leave myself some adjustment room. Nice and vacuum. How's it holding? Holding pretty well. Yeah. I'm watching the vacuum gauge, making sure that that's holding vacuum well enough to keep it from sliding around, and it looks like it does. So now the CNC has come to life. Okay, so we'll use your view here. The center line here, I'm using a V-bit in the machine, in the router, as my centering point. And right now, I just lined it up to this end and moved down this length. And we're off about 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the vacuum in just a second. And I'm going to lose the charge of the vacuum in there. Maybe. I think we're okay. There we go. And just align, and I'm just going to hold it and move the router and just get it to traverse. I'm basically tramming it in on this center line. Yeah, that wasn't bad. That was pretty close for one try. Now it's vacuumed in. We'll just confirm that we're where we think we should be. Yeah, that'll work. So the point of the bit, the point of the cutter is traversing this center line almost beautifully. Just, excuse that noise, that's the vacuum going off. Just about perfectly traversing this center line, which is great. That's what I want. Now I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and eyeball the center line of that peak. Right about there looks pretty close to where it intersects, which is great. So now we have our, so doing that center line, we zeroed our Y. Our Y was zeroed because we traversed. Now we're going to zero the X at this point. Then I'm going to move into manual mode and do X, would type in G0X minus 0.7204, and it'll move this way, that far, and that is the new 0 for X. So now I go back to, what's that called? I go back to my program run and I zero my X. Now my X and Y are 0, and then it's just the same stuff we always do for zeroing our Z axis. We bring out a piece of paper. This one's seen some days, it seems. And we do the usual, drop it a few thou at a time, and it's pretty close. Yeah, that's on it right there, and then we add 3 thou to that, call it 0. And we have repeated to within 8 thou from the last one, which was that walnut, which was a bit thinner. Okay, we have now got our zeros. And now we have to load some G-code. And it'll be the pocket. And like it or not, I think I'm ready to go here. Hopefully I have my speeds and feeds right, that we don't get a lot of tear out on this ebony. It's a far more brittle wood than the walnut was, so we're going to find that out real quick. So bring you back when we're ready to run it. That came out really good. I am supremely pleased with the outcome. Let's pop that vacuum and take a look. It looks perfect. No chipping out, no tearing of any kind. I don't know how well the autofocus is doing there. I'll bring you a better shot in a minute, but nice, huh? Nice. All right, let's put some goop in it. Alright, so we are getting ourselves clamp ready, just like the last test. Take a little acetone and put it in this cup, makes it a little easier to work with. And all we're using is straight up acetone and a clamp. Acetone and clamping force. And what I'm going to do is well, I think we're ready actually. I'm going to do a quick little dry run just to make sure I'm fully well and prepared without any goo in my way or any issues or blockages. Okay, we're going to go down on that way, it's going to go down there that way, that'll go on there like that, this will go in here. Oh, we need this to go first. Okay, that'll go on first with some acetone over it, this, then the clamps. I think we'll try 2 this time, actually. No, we'll just, I think we learned last time not to get too clampy with it, and then we do like so. That's it, that's clampage. Okay, we have dry ran. Now we just put this over here, this like so, and we'll make sure we're well and truly cleaned out. Double check the pocket that it's going into. The ebony cut really well. I'm actually quite amazed. It's very cleanly cut. Makes sense, it's so dense that it cuts cleanly, but yeah, it's just one of those. I hope it cuts right. Turned out it did. Okay, I'll just brush any of the little bits of dust out of there. Don't think we have anything contaminating at this point, which is good. And now we're about to do it. Here it goes. Enough stalling, right? I'm going to flood the hole it's going into with acetone. I'm going to flood it twice. Make sure there's plenty in there. I'm going to flood our inlay with it nicely. Get it good and absorbed into it. And then we are going to flip the inlay in, position it into the pocket that it goes into there, like that. Place a little caul or glue squeeze out protector, whatever. Put our caul down and clamp away. There we go. And I'm clamping pretty good because it's a lot thicker than the previous attempts were. I'm going to try a little bit more. See if I can't sneak another clamp in here just to be... I feel better about more clamps because it's thicker this time. So there. Now it just keeps the caul from flexing. So I'm going to leave this in here overnight. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to leave it again for another day because it gets soft and squishy, and I want to make sure it stays very, very well adhered, and make sure it's definitely dry before I go scraping on it. But hey, headstock inlay hopefully is in. We'll see. Alright, well, apologies for the bad audio. I don't have my microphone on right now. I just got home from work, but I wanted to get the clamps off this inlay. See how it did. Well, that didn't stick to it. That's good. Plastic's not stuck, but it's definitely still soft. But in the end, taking a quick glance at things, I think it's okay. Looks like it's going to be fine. So you can see there it's plenty above the surface all around. So now I'm just going to leave it sit for another day and finish hardening, so I don't try to scrape that flat yet. Not until it's had time to fully dry in the air now. So we'll bring you back when I'm ready to flatten that. Alright, it's now been 2 days it's had to dry and cure and get itself right with my world. And I've just got a scraper. I'm going to very gingerly. See how much of this I can remove this way. It's going to get in your way, and I apologize. Taking a little bit of ebony with us here. Just try to get the bulk of it off here. It's pretty thick in this area. Go. Getting somewhere here. I do apologize for the very bad photographing. Hey, you know what? Let's move. Ah, it's a much better angle. It's getting very close here. Trying to get to the very thinness here. Looking promising, isn't it? Boy, that looks good. Alright, now we're near enough to the wood here, just about. That, God, that looks so good. I think it's time. We start sanding there, okay? Just a real quick, I think this might be 150 at the most. Oh, that's looking amazing. I need to get some air here. 1 second. 1 second. Watch this. I think you're about to get the big reveal. Man, that looks good. Man, that looks good. Oh, duty. Look at that. Well, you can see it before I can. Check that out. Oh, that looks good. Man, that looks nice. That is absolutely what I was going for. So cool. So, I don't know if you can see it very well. I will try to get a decent view here. Can you see the pearloid coloring? So it's variable and sort of pearlescent looking. It's only gonna look better as I get a finish over it. Man, that looks awesome. One headstock inlay, precisely what I wanted. Beautiful. Awesome.